Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast, energized by KLMO Game Boy US, with your hosts, Jason Rambo and Sean Alley. Coming in hot with the 411 on all things sporting clays. Your go-to source for information, education, and entertainment, from the new shooter to the seasoned competitor.
Oh, I'm a junkie, man.
I want to play with the buttons.
He just likes to throw people under the bus. If you're not used to that yet. That's part of the show.
Does your brain hear what your mouth is saying?
Hey, I'm going to call Dave when the podcast is over and ask him what half the words are.
Let's rapid fire. Let's do the hot seat. Let's get her done.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. And now, it's showtime!
In case you didn't hear that at the beginning.
Oh, boy.
I was thirsty.
This is what I have to work with, everyone. What's up there, my large mammal friend?
Like I said, I was just thirsty.
Wow, I guess so.
Fixing that problem.
I know what it is.
What is it?
You just went up to Michigan, and the wife went with you, and you were on a short leash.
I was.
And she's not here right now, so you're making up for it.
We'll go with that. I guess that's as good as any.
So tell me about your trip up to Michigan.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, we did a lot of lead into the Crushing Cancer shoot for Roseanne Prucka, and I went up there, and I tell you what, man, the weather was gorgeous. Couldn't ask for anything better. And hats off to everybody that had a hand in that. I know Dan Williams kind of headed everything up, and he had plenty of help. Believe me, I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but for the sake of timeliness, hats off to Michigan Shooting Centers. They actually donated a check to Roseanne for $9,500. Wow. They raised, I don't know how much they raised on the raffles and the giveaways. And I mean, it was crazy, dude. There was so many people there. I think easily 150, 160 people were up there. The food was great. It was well run. Everybody was smiles and having fun.
But you shot a tournament leading up to that. Did you go to Detroit?
Yeah, so I went to Detroit Gun Club and shot the Motor City tournament that weekend, which was both a Saturday and Sunday tournament.
Okay.
I'd never been to that club, great club, and I would definitely go back. But getting back to the event for Roseanne, again, just hats off to everybody there. It was well run. Amazing people. I keep saying it time and time again. The people in this sporting clays, are some of the nicest and most generous people I've met. I know the guy that won, just for instance, this is one instance of a great thing that happened there. The guy that won the raffle for the pistol and the shotgun, the Beretta shotgun, actually gave it right back, and they raffled it off again for cash, and I think they raised another $2,500 for Roseanne. So
cool.
I think everything went really, really well, and everybody was really happy, and you could just tell on Roseanne and Paul's faces. They were just kind of overwhelmed, and it was just a really joyful experience and a great event to be there. So,
well, like I told you, Sean, I had spoke to Paul Prucka the days leading up to there, and I hated that I couldn't go.
Yeah, well, life happens, man.
But I spoke to Paul a couple days before, and he was telling me, some of the treatments and stuff that Roseanne's going through, and this isn't her first, this isn't her second, this is her third bout with cancer.
Right.
And I feel so bad for her. She needs all the help we can give her. I mean,
yeah.
But that's Dan Williams. This isn't the first time something like this has came up, and he's really helped somebody.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's just a big giving guy. I mean, and it was amazing to see the amount of turnout. I mean, several of our sponsors was involved. Rhino gave away a custom set of choke tubes. Bear Pelt gave away some vests. Odopro gave away a gift certificate for some ears. And again, True Pair Apparel was there. They gave away a bunch of shooting jerseys to everybody, for everybody that was involved. And the catering was donated. I mean, everything was donated. I even donated signs and stuff for the event. You donated some stuff from your company, and I'm trying to think. I mean, I could go on and on and on. We could talk about this for half an hour.
Yeah.
There was that many people that were helping out. So again, it was just great to see a great event, and hopefully that was a big help for Roseanne and Paul.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on, we got to get to Tourney talk.
Everybody's on the edge of their seat.
This Tourney talk is brought to you by Score Chaser. The Camille Cup 2023 is now, actually, it's going to be open July 10th and is now moving to Cherokee Rose in Georgia. The Gator Cup is moving to Backwoods Quail Club for 2023 in Georgia, and it's now open on Score Chaser. And the Georgia State Championship will be held at the Meadows and should be open by the time you're hearing this, but if not, keep a lookout for it. It's right there. Hopefully I'll hear back from Dominic Bethel here by the end of this podcast, and we can confirm that. So
Absolutely.
But we're talking to the one-wheel peel tonight.
Mr. Brad Kidd.
Mr. Brad Kidd. So let's get Brad on the phone.
Heck yeah. All right, joining us on the phone, traveling on his way from Texas to, what'd you say, Jackson, Florida?
Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, Jackson,
We've got
Mississippi.
The South Central Regional coming up.
That's
Yep.
right. We got Mr. Brad Kidd on the phone. Brad, it's been a little while. How's life been treating you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Same as always. Busy shooting schedule. We just finished up the U.S. Open a couple weeks ago. I've been busy on the road teaching. I'm on the road a lot in the summer. Things slow down a little bit in Florida in the summertime. So just finished 3 days of work here in Louisiana and got in the car and driving up to Jackson. Really looking forward to shooting at Providence Hill. It's a great place.
Did you take the one wheel with you, Brad?
I do have it in the truck, but I rented a cart this time. They've got some terrain there. They've got some big hills, and it's not the place to one wheel.
I'm gonna start calling you the one wheel peel.
Well, Brad, I guess let's start right off. Since you mentioned it first, let's talk about the U.S. Open, man. I mean, that was definitely one for the record books, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Rick Hemingway is just, I don't want to say a standard above, but he does it right.
Mm-hmm.
What's so impressive is just the organization. I mean, even as simple as the parking, they just had so much room, and it was so well laid out, from the parking to the vendors. He's got such a big place there. He's able to spread the events out and really offers, great targets on every course. The U.S. Open is a lot of people, a lot of events. You're doing new styles of PTAS that takes up a lot of ground. So just incredibly impressed with him, the organization behind bringing that shoot together as well as he did.
Yeah, that was the first U.S. Open that Jason and I had been to, and we were absolutely blown away. I mean, not to mention that's a 15,000-acre facility, which just boggles the mind. But like you said, I mean, the parking was great. The space for the camping was great. All the vendors were set up correctly. I mean, it was well run, like a Swiss watch, man. It was really, really a great event.
Yeah, hard to find anybody that does it better than Rick.
Well, Brad, kind of what stole the show there, if you will, was the targets. And there's been a lot of talk about those targets. What's your opinion on them?
My opinion was, they were hard. They were really hard. That's probably some of the hardest targets, or at least some of the individual courses were some of the hardest targets I can recall, at least going back to when we did the PSCA. A number of years ago, they had that professional, shooting association, and that shoot was set up for the pros. So there were a couple times we shot really incredibly difficult targets on the PSCA Pro Tour. But those are some of the hardest NSCA targets that I've seen.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. So, I mean, yes, the targets were tough and they were challenging, but one of the questions we were discussing with a lot of other shooters was, where do you go to get practice like that? And how do you prepare for something like that? And then number two, do you think Rick's setting a new precedence and this is going to up the level just another notch for us shooters out there?
I wouldn't say he's setting a new precedence. I think everybody, every gun club, every course setter, or people that are managing tournaments have a different idea of what they want out of target difficulty. I don't think it's necessary to make the targets that difficult to have a great championship. At the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's his shoot. He was awarded the U.S. Open. It's his decision on how he wants to set the courses, how challenging he wants the targets to be. I don't think there was anything that it was just very hard. It was relentless. It was just a little bigger distance on average than we're used to seeing. There were some really tough true pairs. There were two tough individual targets anyway, and then throwing to the true pair made them incredibly tough. So, we're all shooting the same targets. It was a fair event. It was just a little more challenging. You can contrast that to the U.S. Open the year before at Claythorne that was one with a 197. It's probably some of the easiest targets that we shot at a major championship in recent years. So I think it's like anything else. I think there's a little bit of back and forth. I think it depends on who's got the shoot. But that's the great thing about sporting clays. It's not standardized. It's a bird in the air. The variables are angle, speed, and distance. Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes they're easier. To me, they're fun to shoot at either way.
Well, let's switch gears here to you specifically. You've always been one of the shooters at the top of the game, but it seems like this year has seen you near or at the very top at a lot of these big shoots. Is there anything that you have done to bring consistency to your game that you want to share with us?
I'd say, well, first I'd say I've been a little up and down this year. That's the way I feel anyway. I kind of started off the year really good. I've got, I don't even know, somewhere between 18 and 22 wins this year. But most of those were earlier in the season. So I felt like I was pretty hot for a little while, starting the year out, and I haven't been as consistent lately. I made a few changes to my gun, and I hadn't really gotten comfortable with that. So I've been kind of searching a little bit there. That knocked me off, kind of off where I was a little bit, and finding my way back. I think a lot of it is when I was shooting well, I had a lot of confidence. And as I fell off a little bit of that confidence goes. You start to become a little conscious of one thing I say to myself a lot of times is mentally it's all about the target. Like, that's the shot. The shot is the target. And it's easy to get a little caught up in your physical movement or your lead or how you're holding the gun and little things. So when you feel like things get off the rails a little bit, you get a little conscious about some of that stuff, and you're not just focusing on the target and turning it loose and taking the shot. So I found my way back to that a little bit lately. So I had a little bit of a lull, then I felt like I kind of came back up here in the recent tournaments, and that's really what it came down to was just kind of finding some game, finding some confidence, and being able to make the shot more about the target itself and not about me.
Sean and I personally know firsthand how tough it can be with a newborn baby at home. So, congratulations on that, by the way.
I didn't want to make excuses. That's part of it. We spent a new child. We bought a new house. Things got been a little crazier the last couple months. So it's quite busy. Things slow down in Florida, like I mentioned, in the summertime. So I'm having to travel a little bit. There's just a lot going on with 3 kids at home and trying to work and teach and moving into a new home. So that was definitely part of it.
Yeah, that was kind of my question is, maybe like a little bit of lack of sleep here and there and, kind of with all the personal stuff going on, not being quite as prepared, do you think that had a little bit to feed into it?
Yeah, a little bit. But, you can't you can't empower that excuse. That's life. There's always stuff going on. All these top shooters have got stuff going on in their lives and their work and whatnot. So you can never empower the excuse. You gotta let the blame stop with yourself and figure out what it is you need to do better, you need to improve on. So there's always stuff there that we can say, well this, well that, but it really doesn't do you any good. If you've got a good game, you ought to be able to take it out there and put it out there. Anytime you understand your game, you understand the game, you ought to be able to perform at that high level most of the time. So
yeah.
One thing I like to say is don't empower the excuses, go out there and plan to do your best and give it your best every time.
Yeah. Well, not to add on to any more excuses for you. When we were down there earlier this year and spent some time with you at South Florida, Jason and I noticed you had some tape on your stock. Looked like you were working on something with your stock, and I noticed you mentioned something about a gun change. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were trying to accomplish or what was happening there? Going back earlier this year, unfortunately the gun I've shot for about a decade got lost in the mail. And so I've been steadily kind of trying to rebuild the stock, the way that I like it. I had it pretty good, but didn't feel like it was perfect. And in trying to make it perfect, I kind of messed it up a little bit. So I had to go back to square one. And then I
long story short, after my gun got lost, the one that was available was a 34-inch barrel. So I've been toiling, going back and forth between 32 and 34, figuring out what I want to do there. So it's been a little bit of a mess this year, and me just, putting my gun together and figuring out what gun I want to shoot. That's been something I've had to deal with, but again, it's not an excuse. I can shoot the gun fine. I shot the 34-inch gun well early in the season. No reason why I can't shoot it well now. But it is a minor difference in weight, just how the gun points.
Gotcha.
Well, Brad, back in February when we were down there at South Florida Gun Club, man, you were very busy. I mean, slammed. How's coaching going for you? Are you still pretty slammed, or do you got some open spots, or how's it looking?
Yeah, no, like I said, things at home slow down in the summer, so I end up spending a little more time on the road. I got a pretty big trip right now. I'm in Louisiana for a few days. I shoot the regional in Mississippi. Then I'm in Dallas for about 5 or 6 days at Dallas Gun Club. Then back to Louisiana for a few days. Then I get home. I'm not home long at all, and then it's off to the World Beat Task in Italy. I'm actually there for a couple weeks. Going to shoot the championship, and then I'll be going up to the Zoli factory and working on with them designing a new gun for them to sell. So we're just gonna do something a little different. Trying to make something nice. Just some more cosmetic adjustments to the gun than anything.
Right.
And just come out with a new design of a shotgun. Not a new design, functionally, but cosmetically.
Right.
Gotcha.
Kind of the Brad Kidd signature gun, I guess you could say.
We had 2 guys with us when we were down there, and they're very green. I mean, they're very new to shooting sporting clays, and watching you work with them and seeing the progression throughout the course of the day was very impressive. But for you, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a coach with people that are green to shooting?
Well, when you got somebody green, you've got a bunch of new information to try to give them. So I'd say one of the challenges there is trying to say, all right, you got to learn 10 things to really be able to hit this shot or to be able to shoot well. But you can only kind of put one thing in at a time. So sometimes it can be challenging in getting people to understand you're not going to, you hadn't shot much, you're coming out for a lesson. You're not going to necessarily get better on the lesson. We're going to work on what you need to, or try to teach you what you need to understand and what you need to work on in practice to get better. So that can be a challenge is taking the expectation away from the immediate result. And shifted it towards, okay, get better at these number of things, work on them in practice, and look at it more as a long-term result. That's one thing. Sometimes you may have a beginner that's struggling with things like eye dominance. That can be very difficult. Eye dominance, gun fit. You got a lot of things that that you need to get correct for them to be able to succeed. So sometimes it's hard to get it all to happen in one lesson.
Yeah, well, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there, Brad, because as a new shooter, I mean, first of all, you don't even know if your gun fits right if you go to a coach. Number 2, like you said, eye dominance. You were working with Adam, my buddy that was down there, and he was having a little bit of an eye dominance issue. You were working with him through that. And like you said, I mean, a lot of these new shooters come into the sport, and that's great. We love to have everybody in here, but there's just so much. They get sometimes frustrated if they're not progressing quickly enough, but, there's just so much they don't know from the get-go. And to have guys like you and other great coaches in the country who are able to spend time with them and actually work them through some of the basics, at least that gets them on the right track, and then from there they can actually start working on being a shooter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all you can really do is get them on the right track. I mean, you may have to make adjustments to, their form and mechanics, how they're holding the gun, how they're standing, how they're mounting the gun. You got to get them to understand what a good technical approach is, what you're trying to do with the gun in relation to the bird. The mental ideas of keeping your eye on the bird, trusting the shot, letting go of physical tension. Then you got other things you may be struggling with, like eye dominance. You throw that into the equation, or gun fit. You throw that into the equation. There's a lot to understand in the beginning. So you got to have some patience. You got to go work at it. You got to learn a little bit, go practice, come back, learn a little bit more, go practice. It doesn't all happen in one lesson.
So that being said, Do you think it's real easy to give like information overload to a new shooter?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think you pretty much always do.
Yeah.
You're gonna give them more than they're gonna remember. You know, but if they can pick up a few things and go work on them and improve, then you've had a successful outing. So I think there's probably some degree of information overload every time, and they're going to grasp onto a couple things that maybe really helped them or felt good, and when they implemented them. So you're always going to have a little bit of, next time you see them, okay, you remember this, you remember that. Like, okay, you're doing a good job of these few things that you learned, but some other things that you're talking about that we need to readdress or continue to work on. So absolutely, I think information overload is always part of it. That's why you got to make notes at the end. It's good to sit down and make notes, get your voice recorder out, make notes while it's fresh in your mind, because some of that information is going to slip through the cracks.
Maybe send them home with some homework, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you said that you're traveling for the summer. I think by the time this airs, it's going to be a little bit too late to get everybody over to Texas to see you. But can you give everybody a heads up of where you're going next? Maybe somebody wants to catch up with you for a lesson.
Yeah, I'll be doing a bunch of time in the Northeast, several clubs throughout Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maine, New York. So I'll be pretty much almost the entire month of August. I'll be in the Northeast coaching. And you can check my social media. I'll have the schedule posted there. And I'm sure, a lot of the clubs will be sending out advertisements and whatnot and filling those dates. So,
well, if you're going to be in the Northeast in August, then you need to come over to the Ohio State shoot.
I'm actually teaching that weekend, but
oh man, you're missing you're missing a good shoot.
Yeah, I hate missing it, but you got to pay the bills.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
I understand that.
Definitely. Well, Brad, one of the things, I want to change gears a little bit on you. One of the things that's been kind of plaguing our sport, or at least has been kind of a thorn in our side, is the rising costs of ammo, the rising costs of fuel. Obviously, you're on the road driving, and then also we're noticing the tournaments going up. The birds are more expensive. Takes more gas and fuel to get the shipments to the clubs. I mean, it's all going up. It's all becoming more and more expensive. Are you starting to see any negativity or decline in the numbers at the tournaments lately?
No, but that's partly due to the tournaments I'm at. The market I'm in South Florida. It's a private gun club. It's mostly wealthier members with a lot of disposable income. But I'm definitely hearing a lot of the smaller markets, the smaller towns, the smaller gun clubs, numbers declining, at tournaments, just in general, day-to-day recreational numbers declining. So, with the current state of the economy and the price of things like gas and ammo, it's expected. It's hard to afford anything right now.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Brad, when you were on here a year ago, I stole something from you. You told us that you kept a rosin bag in your bag of goodies. And you can ask Sean every time it gets hot like it is right now.
He breaks that rosin bag
out. I get that rosin bag out. I tell you what, man, that was a good little tip, man. I appreciate that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I tell you what, I really like it. It helps me a lot. It's easy, especially your gun's always got a little oil, a little grease on it. If you clean your gun, you got some oil on that stock on that wood.
Right.
That little rosin bag seems to counter it, gives you a good handle on the gun without having to bring a lot of tension into your hand. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, wanted to give you another big shout out too for the introduction to Shot Cam. We did a podcast with them a while back, and man, what a great group of people to work with.
Yeah, they're great people. It's a really cool tool, and you can really see a lot. So it's a great piece of equipment, great company to back it.
Gotcha. Well, Brad, do you have any other, I know you're probably going to be at the big shoots this year, the Nationals coming up and all that stuff. What about you doing any, big clinics or big group events with your coaching?
Yeah, this trip in the Northeast, there's several of that stuff. I'll probably be doing a few days at Nemacolin. And the way they like to package it is kind of a group, half day or day, package clinic type thing. So, yeah, I do a little bit of that stuff. I'd say the majority of my lessons are one-on-one, though.
Okay. But
one-on-one or a pair of guys just booking me for,
Gotcha. Well, I guess at this point, I think we've covered most of the stuff we were going to ask you. Is there anything that you'd like to add or maybe mention to our listeners in case anybody's out there considering trying to get with you on a lesson or a future date, maybe see you at a tournament or something?
Yeah, contact me at bradkiddcoaching@gmail.com or my cell phone, which is really the best way to get me. Text or call 985-232-1696. I was curious though, your guys that we had, I know you saw some progression through the day. How have they been doing since?
Well, they have been going out. Adam and Eric, both not registered NSCA shooters yet, but they go out to their local clubs probably about once a month. They're having a good time, and I'm trying to get them talked into getting into registered shooting because I'd love to be able to come down there to Florida and maybe shoot some tournaments with those guys. They're a hoot.
Yeah, this is the Emperor trying to turn Luke Skywalker to the dark side. So.
That's all right, man. I can poke and prod my buddies. They always look forward to us coming down there because where they're at, they don't have a lot of, I guess, local guys that they know, so just those two guys are going out and shooting. And I told them, I said, look, as soon as you get signed up with the NSCA and you start hitting some of your local clubs and stuff and getting into tournaments, you're going to know more people than you can remember. So, hopefully I'll get them on that track and we'll get them into the fold and they'll learn how much fun this sport really is.
Yeah, heck yeah. Tell them to call me. I can introduce them to some people. They'll make friends fast.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Brad.
Well, Brad, I'm going to make sure and put all your information down in the description of this podcast. Anybody listening to this, if they're driving down the road and they want to check it out later, they can go right back here and access it. So,
yeah, great. I sure appreciate that.
Well, Brad, thanks so much. We know you're a busy guy. We know you're all over the place. Thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for getting this info out to our listeners. And we look forward to running into you again on the tournament circuit soon.
Yeah, and good luck this weekend, man.
Happy to do it.
Yeah,
thanks so much. I appreciate it. Shout out to this place. I don't know if you guys have been. This is one of the most beautiful clubs in the country. It's just immaculate. It's an unbelievable piece of property. It's hills, it's woods, it's open. It's got a big, huge, I want to say like a 50-acre lake, maybe even bigger than that.
Wow.
A lot of the courses kind of wrap around it. So it's going to be an incredible tournament. They hosted the World Peak Task a couple of years ago.
Nice.
But I'm really excited to be going back up here and competing for a major championship.
Well, that's one of the ones that's on our bucket list. The only problem is it seems like the more people we talk to, the more bucket list items we get to add to it.
Right,
so.
Yeah, the bucket's growing.
Yeah.
We've got so many great clubs and great tournaments in this country. We're really fortunate.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, safe travels. Good luck at the tournament, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you so much, guys. All the best.
Thanks,
right.
Brad.
See you, Brad.
We'll see you, bud.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, now we're going to have a quick segment from Woolley Shooting.
All right, on the phone with us for this Woolley Shooting segment is John Andrews. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, John. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
John, tell everybody where you're from and a little bit of background about your shooting.
Sure. I live in St. Augustine, Florida. Moved here in 2018. That's when I met John Woolley. But in terms of shooting, I was raised in the great state of Maine, so I started with a shotgun when I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
It was politically correct in those days to do that.
Yeah, you got to watch. There's not too much politically correct anymore. So,
No.
So tell us about how you came about with John Woolley and Woolley Shooting Inc.
Sure. Shortly after we moved to Florida, I was looking for an instructor. I had been out of shooting for a while due to a couple of neck surgeries. And I had just started back in it, was playing with it, decided I wanted to really start focusing on sporting clays. And as I was checking out the Northern Florida scene, probably half a dozen people said, you got to go see John Woolley. And I said, who is this John Woolley? Because I did not know of him, did not know his history. In any event, shortly thereafter, I did find out his whole history. I met with him and started taking lessons with him. That was in the late spring 2018.
Wow. So you've bought a few firearms from John. We want to tell us about the first one anyway and how that came about?
Sure. The first one I bought was a Zoli Z-Sport. After, 2, 3, 4, 5 lessons, we started talking about gun fit. And I explained to him that the Browning I was shooting had been fitted for me, and he said, "Well, sorry, mate, it wasn't fitted properly." So we started the whole process of looking at different guns. John is outstanding, not in terms of his salesmanship, but in terms of being able to really help you pick the gun that fits you best. He takes a lot of time. It was a process, and I was absolutely thrilled when I started shooting that Zoli.
Gotcha. So basically, you probably went through quite a few different guns to finally decide on the Zoli, correct?
I did. I absolutely did.
Okay.
It was a fairly decent sized investment, and I really wanted a gun that was going to help me with my shooting.
Gotcha. And John has been around the block, let's face it, for many, many years. So he knows exactly what he's doing. So basically, you felt totally comfortable with him, with his advice, with his suggestions, and the things he was pointing you towards?
100%. And I can tell you, I am so confident that I've actually brought people from as far away as Boston to have him fit them.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Nice.
So now, in our previous conversation, you had noted that you've bought several guns from John. So if you're like Sean and I, you try to find that magic one that will break targets for you. So can you tell us about a few of the other firearms you've got from Woolley?
Sure. Most recently, I bought a matching Zoli because I traveled to Puerto Rico. I have a little sporting clays course in Puerto Rico, and I wanted to keep one down there, and I wanted the identical gun. So I bought that from him.
Nice.
So as to avoid the back and forth travel with a gun, because it's still a pain to get to do.
Yeah, I imagine. Is it more difficult to travel to Puerto Rico than it is, say, just within the continental United States, or?
It is, even though they have their new laws are really quite advantageous. They're not really sorted with it, so it's a little bit more of a challenge. I think another 6 months or a year, it'll be probably as easy to bring a shotgun to Puerto Rico as it is to travel in the U.S. with it.
Gotcha. Well, what other things can you say about John? I mean, if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a gun. Who do I go see?" I know you're going to say it's John, but why?
Because he's honest, because he knows what he's doing. When he fits somebody with a gun, the gun really does fit him, fit the person.
That's a pretty good testimonial right there. I can tell you that.
And it's hard to find.
Yeah.
You guys know that. I mean, look, I've been around a long time. I didn't share with you my age, nor do I intend to. But I'm older than 30 or 40.
Gotcha. Well, and let's face it, these are big investments. I mean, you want to make sure that, you're buying the right thing, because no sense in having something and 3 or 4 months later you got buyer's remorse, right?
No, absolutely. And I've brought quite a few people to John, and I do it with absolute confidence. I've never heard anybody say anything than, "Wow, what a great experience, and I love my gun."
That's awesome.
And I don't think it gets any better than that, frankly.
Well, I'm sure John will be happy to hear that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's the truth. I'm not being paid for this, guys.
And that's why we do this. Hey, look,
99.9% of the time, we're not getting paid for it either, okay?
Right.
So, we feel your pain.
It's a labor of love.
Yes, for sure.
I understand. I say that to myself every time I go shooting.
Yeah, I mean, it's par for the course on our industry. I mean, yeah, sure, absolutely. We have our sponsors, and we love them to death, and they help us out.
Sure.
But it's not making the mortgage payments. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I've seen him with new customers, and it's really tough, I think, in this industry to beat the buying experience that one has with John Woolley.
Well, one last question, and then we're going to let you go. In terms of bargain, price, and you don't have to say any numbers, but in terms of bargain, do you feel like you really did get a good deal for what you got?
I do. I mean, based on what I can see industry-wide, there isn't a lot of play in these and pricing on these guns.
Right.
And so, from my perspective, I don't think I paid any more than I would have had I gone elsewhere. I perhaps paid a little bit less than some places. But yeah, I think I got a good deal.
That's awesome.
Well, I guess that's.
And I didn't buy it online. If I have a problem, I go back and say, "John, this gun don't work."
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, so you can argue about price until you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, customer service is key. And if you ever do have a problem or a question, you can go back to John and say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And he's probably get right there, ready and willing to help you. So.
Absolutely, John and Nick are there 100%. Based on what I can see, I had a small problem. It was taken care of immediately.
That's good to hear. Good to hear.
Well, John, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it very much. And I'm sure Mr. Woolley and Nick will both be happy to hear what you had to say.
Well, I hope so. It was nothing but the truth, guys.
Awesome.
We appreciate it. You have a wonderful 2022 season, and we wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, and call me when you want to talk about shooting in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a very
cool.
active. It's a very active shotgun sporting scene.
Really?
And the Puerto Ricans came in number 2 and skied in Peru last week. So
Well, there you go.
We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys.
We got your number handy here. You're going to be hearing from us sooner than you think. So.
Well, we'll drag you down there and check it out.
Oh, we'll go kicking and screaming, I'm sure.
All right, guys.
John, listen, don't tease me with a good time now, okay? So.
Well, I don't know. Do you really know how to have a really good time? Because Puerto Rico, that's what happens.
Well, I guarantee if I'm going over there, my wife's going, so I'll be on the short leash. Clay targets and bourbon by the campfires as far as it's going to go. So.
Okay, well, we can figure something out for you.
Sounds good.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
guys.
John. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Sean, if you ever needed a reason to buy a gun from Woolley Shooting Inc., there it was.
There it is.
So
Great guys to deal with.
Yeah. Hey, just got a text message back from Dominic Bethel. The Georgia State shoot for 2023. He expects to have it up. He's saying that no later than September. So I kind of jumped the gun there on the Tourney talk, but at least now we know it is going to be at the Meadows. The only thing he's waiting on is just a couple final, sponsor deals to come
Well,
through.
all these bigger shoots, the biggest thing is they fill up quickly, so it's nice to know in advance so you get in there and get signed up.
So put that on your calendar. End of August, beginning of September. Be looking for that to come open.
Definitely.
And I can attest. I was there. I know firsthand the Meadows throws an awesome shoot. So
Heck yeah. I'll definitely have to get down there soon. Definitely one of my bucket list items.
yeah, I think you're missing out, dude.
Yeah. Oh, well, only so much time.
Are you giving me excuses? I need answers from you, Mr. Alley.
I just need to win that lottery, and then I have all the answers for you.
I sent you years ago to buy the winning tickets so we could quit going to work.
I must be making some kind of mistake because apparently the ones I've been buying are not worth anything.
You're not supposed to buy used ones from the guy on the corner.
Oh, well, maybe they were half price, though.
Yeah. Sean, every week we talk about taking somebody new shooting and taking them to a tournament, and it's just like we just had this conversation with Brad. You got your buddies that we met up with down there in South Florida, and they go shoot every once in a while on the weekend.
Right.
With these rising prices, it's harder to encourage somebody to go more often, but I think the tournament bug is where they get bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know I can relate to probably thousands of shooters out there. You do this with your buddies on the weekends, kind of the weekend warrior whole approach, and you do it as you can afford it. You do it as you have time, and then the next level up from there is you join the NSCA, and then you start.
Then you went to the dark side.
Yeah, and then it's a slippery slope, and you're all in at that point. So, yeah, it's a common story.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are very fortunate here at the Dead Pair. We've got people like, Game Boy US, KL Ammo helping us out, Bear Pelt, Atlas Traps, Odo Pro, Hearing Services, Negrini Cases, Rhino Chokes, RE Ranger, and White Flyer. And let's not forget Folded Wing Apparel. We sincerely appreciate, everybody helping us out. And we're hoping that our listeners are finding good value in those products.
Yeah, definitely. They're great people to deal with, great companies, like we say, week in and week out. And we appreciate all of our listeners who support them as well, because they are the ones that support us and bring this show to you every week.
Okay, I'm going to ask. We can edit this part if you want.
Okay.
Are we releasing the Sean and Jason podcast?
I have no answer yet.
Hasn't your lawyer cleared everything by now?
There's a lot of legalese in there. I haven't read into it fully yet. I'm not sure how the statute of limitations work out and on certain items. So there's definitely some gray area, some head scratching areas in there.
Oh man, that was rough.
Yeah, it was. And thanks to Chad for doing that for us. But it was definitely a longer podcast than what we expected. So there's a lot of good stuff we got to get wheedled down out of the massive.
Hey, I've got. I might be lighting a fire here, like gasoline fire here. You just gave me the hairy eyeball. I had a conversation with someone the other day, someone that we both know very well, about masterclass, and everybody's got a great idea how to fix it. The problem is every great idea comes with a consequence for somebody, right?
Of course, yeah.
And that's why the NSCA hasn't fixed it yet. There's really no great way. Just asking your opinion, how would you fix it?
Well, I guess there's ways to fix it, but then you also have to look at how it affects the top-level shooters versus the rest of us in masterclass.
So you're thinking breaking the top-level shooters out.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I think the biggest disadvantage of masterclass, and listen, you can get good, you can get very good, and I know people that work a regular day job, and they're very good shooters, and they are nipping at the heels of some of the best guys in the country. But the bottom line is, a lot of those people that hold those top spots, tournament after tournament, they've been shooting since they were a very young age, and that's basically their full-time job. So take a guy like me, who works 50, 60 hours a week, finds time when he can to practice, and goes to tournaments more often than not.
Okay.
It's really hard to be competitive.
So that presents a question. Does having the title of Masterclass really mean that much to you?
No, and it's something I've been thinking about because, I mean, I'm a good shooter. It's not that, but I have to go to these big events. If I go to the Nationals, if I go to the Jack Links Cup or whatever, I've said it time and time again, I don't have the expectations that I'm going to place up high, in the top 25.
So my idea is to follow something along the lines of what they do over in Europe, which is based on a percentage. Mm-hmm. And, that can be a whole new can of worms, but at least it's a little bit more accurate. If you're a higher percentage shooter, then you're going to be in the highest of the classes. Myself, look, people are going to call me crazy. I really have no desire to go to Masterclass. It doesn't matter what class you're in, you can win a tournament, right? There's nothing that says if you shoot HOA, you can't win because you're not in Masters.
Right.
So I don't care. I mean, to me, it's that label and chasing the punches kind of lost its luster with me, and I don't care if I'm labeled as Masterclass or not. I still think for 99% of the people that are out there that have worked their butt off, and congratulations, you made Masterclass. If you think you're going to go to a tournament like the U.S. Open and compete with Corey Cruz, you're smoking some really good illegal stuff. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I just wish it was that simple because there are some exceptions. I mean, again, I think it depends on your age.
Yes.
I think it depends on the time in the saddle, so to speak. I mean, somebody that recently got in the sport, let's say you're a SCTP shooter, and in a couple of years, you also competed in the NSCA and you punched up to Masterclass in a year or two because, you're talented, you got young reflexes, good eyes, all that stuff. And then you get to Masterclass, you can definitely, as a younger person, grow and learn enough to be a threat.
Yes.
Somebody in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that just recently got to Master's class still works a job, has a family, all these other obligations and stuff. And again, I'm not making excuses. It's just the facts of life.
Right.
You've only got so much time in your day or in your week or in your month to go out and do extracurricular activities, no matter what it is, golf, bass fishing, shooting, whatever. So it's really hard to say what's going to be fair because if you pull the majority of Masterclass out, which the majority of Masterclass is not your Zach Kindbombs, Anthony and Davids and stuff like that, it's guys like me and other shooters who we do this because we love the sport, but it's just, you got to walk into the U.S. Open saying, okay, no, I'm not gonna win any money, I'm not gonna win any punches, I'm not gonna win anything.
Well, the one statement that Michael Hampton Jr. made when he was on the podcast here earlier this year really hangs in my mind is, you've got Joe Smith or whatever, here he is from, I think the example was Oklahoma or something like that. And he wins Oklahoma State and he's a Masterclass shooter and everybody there doesn't win him in anything but Masterclass. But when he goes to Nationals, he's down 200-300 spots.
Yeah, he's not even competitive.
So that's where the sticky, slippery slope comes because not everybody that's a Masters actually travels to the big events.
That's true.
So it's tough. I mean, how do you figure?
Well, and then there's a level of experience. I mean, we went to the U.S. Open, we saw those targets, and the targets were tough on every station. There was no let up, but it definitely benefited the guys that had more years of experience, especially the guys and gals that have been on the PSCA because they saw a lot of those big tournaments back in those days.
Right.
And I mean, we've been to the Jack Links, we've been to the Nationals and all that stuff. They throw good targets, and a few of them are big targets. But at Rick's, they were all pretty big.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you realistically train for that? Where do you go to, shoot those kinds of targets unless you want to set them up in your backyard?
But then again, like Anthony said, there's a difference between practicing those targets and shooting those targets in the tournament.
Right. And I don't know if anybody really had the idea that they were going to get those kind of targets nonstop.
Well, but that's based on targets, though. But what I'm talking about as far as masterclass goes, and nobody could see you, when I said something about Europe being based on percentage, and you kind of nodded your head yes. So, okay, let's say you do shoot locally. Let's say you're pick somebody from Eagles Nest that wins there a lot. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, and trust me, we don't want him in anything but masterclass because that kid HOA's there all the time.
Yes.
But when he goes to a regional or national, he's not going to be up there. Okay, it's just not going to happen. So,
no.
So, what if it was a two-part change? One was by percentage, and then two for your regional or region. So, in other words, if you're shooting within your region, you're a master class. But if you go outside of your region, let's say you go to a U.S. Open or you go to a regional or something that's outside of your area, you have to have so many points to be in. I don't know, man. There's too many ideas and thoughts. I mean, we could sit there and hash this out to the cows come home.
And I think the biggest thing that you got to look at is the big guys, that go there to seriously compete and try to win. They're going there to try to win some money because this is their career. And if you pull guys out of masterclass and put the money somewhere else, it leaves less for them.
It's really not their career. I mean, look at the guy that won the Nationals last year, Joseph Finizzi. Now, he won a lot of money in options, but overall purse money, by the time you take flight, hotel, rental car, and golf cart out of it, he didn't walk out of there with that much money, dude.
No, I get it. I'm not saying that, but I guess one of the biggest arguments I've always heard is in masterclass, if you take out 75% of the guys that aren't competitive against the top 25%, then there's nothing left in the prize purse for the top guys.
Right. I get that. And that's why the pros, quote unquote, do not want a pro class.
Right.
I totally understand that.
Unless they can find some big sponsor to come on board, Pepsi, Chevy, Ford.
There we go again.
Yeah.
I think there's somebody that's on this podcast week after week that mentioned a title sponsor about a year ago.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
I don't know him.
You don't know him?
No.
He's a great looking dude, let me tell you.
I really don't know him.
Anyway, all right. I think we need to get going.
Yeah,
Sean Alley.
Yeah, big thanks to Brad Kidd for joining us on the show tonight, and really always great catching up with him.
Brad Kidd, the one-wheel peel.
The one-wheel peel. We love him. And again, thanks to Brad. Thanks to all you guys for listening, and we will catch you right back here on another episode of the Dead Pair Podcast.